Hello and welcome to this session on enhancements for SAP Business One in iVend Detail 6.5. My name is Manish and I will be your host for the next about half an hour, 40 minutes, depending upon how interactive the session gets. I'm also joined in by my colleague Yash, who is the product manager for the B1 integration that we have written. And in this session today, we'll be talking about, the different enhancements that we have brought about in iVend Detail on account of SAP Business One. So I see a lot of people are still joining in, and before we actually start, a few housekeeping items. Just want to be very sure that I'm audible enough or not, and one way to confirm that would be by pressing the hand icon in your GoToWebinar control panel so that I know that I'm audible enough. Thank you, Rogelio. So yes, I'm audible enough. So as I said, while we wait for people to join in, another 5-7 minutes, rather 2 or 3 minutes actually, let me just give you a brief background on what is it that we would be covering. So apart from the agenda, 6.5 has been should I say, a watershed kind of an application for us. We have included a whole lot of feature functionality in the application. We have included an integration with Microsoft Dynamics Navision in this release. Not to mention a host of other feature functionality, like for example, locations, interstore notifications, multiple subsidiaries, a completely different licensing structure, which I covered in my previous webinars. So there's a lot that we have covered in the core product, and what we've also covered are a couple of other enhancements on account of SAP Business One. So most important of them being around the stock transfer screen that was there under the inventory transaction option in SAP. So we have done away with that. We now utilize the base product screens for that. But as I said, another 30 seconds if you may, and I will be starting. Thank you so much for an extremely overwhelming response. I see a lot of people today, a lot of familiar people as well. So thank you for taking time out. Thank you, Tenny, for being on the session. So with that said, let me start. The rules apply the same. You can ask the question by raising your hand on the GoToWebinar control panel. You can use the questions tab. You can use the chat window. I have Yash here who will be answering the questions as we go along. So my sincere request once again to make the session as interactive as we possibly can. So with that said, let's start the session. Unlike my other sessions, I do not have any other slide other than what you're seeing right on the screen. So this just the agenda slide, because I thought it will be more important and more pertinent if I were to demonstrate the application and show you things happening rather than just talking through about them on the PowerPoint slides. So the session, or rather the features that we have incorporated, and I've selected just the most important ones. The features that I've selected are broadly categorized in 2 categories, as you can see. The transactions around stock transfer on the top and the UDF UDT UDO integration at the bottom. So this is the interesting part, and I'm obviously and predictably saving it for the second part of the session. So as I was telling earlier, we have done away with the earlier screen that we used to have on stock transfer requisitions, the requisition screen, if I remember. And what we have done now is we are utilizing the SAP Business One base product screens for doing stock transfers and stock transfer requisitions and all the kind of stuff. And one other item on integration of the catalog master from SAP into iVend Detail. So this is a small little thing, but I'll certainly talk about this. But the stock transfer portion still remains the most important part as far as transaction integration is concerned. So what we have done, and if I were to read it out, so we've done the integration of stock transfer requisition with SAP Business One stock transfer requisition document. That means if you do a stock transfer requisition from iVend, it'll start appearing in the stock transfer requisition document in SAP Business One. And if you want to stock transfer it from B1 into iVend, you will again use the inventory transfer screen. So these two form a part of one cycle where I start from iVend, go to Business One and come back to iVend. And this part is automatic receiving of stock transfer shipment from iVend into Business One. So any stock movement, typically around returns, or damaged items, or items which are no longer in fashion or no longer being sold at the retail store, all those items which have to be moved from the retail store back into the warehouse, is we use the stock transfer option of iVend to automatically receive it into Business One. So that's the broad agenda. The second part will cover UDF integration. That's a simple thing. UDT, again, that much more simple. And the UDO, we're using the UDO functionality of SAP Business One and trying to get these UDOs back into iVend. The only caveat here being the fact that the integration is from Business One to iVend as far as the UDF UDT UDO is concerned. It's from B1 to iVend and not the other way around. So so you still have to go through the grind of the way UDFs and UDTs are created in Business One, and then once created, they will be available in the iVend database at the enterprise level for you to do any kind of analysis should there be need. So that's the agenda, and without much delay, let's take a dive into iVend Management Console. So the version that I'm currently using is iVend 6.5 and SAP Business One 9.1. There are a couple of other enhancements that we have done in the new update that is coming out, I think, a couple of days. We call it 6.5 Update 1, which is integrated with 9.2. And significantly from a UDO standpoint, because that's pertinent for today's session, so if you have a UDF within a UDT, you can specify what that UDF would do. Like, for example, it will call out an object in SAP Business One. So we'll talk about that as we move along. Just a word of caution that I'm not a pure hardcore techie of sorts. It's just that I happen to know Business One because I think I would say I was born with it. So with that said, let's start the whole cycle. We go to inventory transaction, business transactions in iVend, and try and create a stock transfer request. So stock transfer request, I collapse this, press new. So obviously the requesting warehouse is from where I am, the retail store where I am, and the request from warehouse is the warehouse from where I want the stocks to be transferred. So I pick this up, and let's say the general warehouse. Okay, I will give a request number. So let's say this is BSTRAVN/0035/1516. That's my requisition number. Let's call it the stock transfer. Some comment here, and just start adding you can always have a reason code in case you want to add a specific reason code. You can add that. Let's say add the product. Search. Let's say I want to add these two, and I say I want to have 15 of them each. Sorry. Okay. You can have a reason code at the individual line item level, or you just leave it the way it is. You can always import a file in case you have all these items listed in a flat file somewhere. So press OK. So that's the absolutely rudimentary stock transfer request. And I've been saying this in my sessions in the past, that the stock transfer request, or rather any other document that we have, any of the reasons that we have, that I've been saying that the reason why we have this stock transfer request document, or any other document for that matter, look very rudimentary is because most, if not all, retailers would like to have their document printed or designed in the way they want it. So this is just a representation of a very elementary form of a document. These documents all, and I covered this in my earlier session, can all be modified and edited and brought back into iVend detail from my reports and dashboards section. So I close this for now. So this requisition that I would have raised here should ideally be available in now in SAP Business One. So if I go back to Business One, I go to inventory, inventory transactions, inventory transfer request, and I go to the last one. It shows the 2 items that I had requested for. Okay, so these are the 2 items that I had requested, and I can always copy them to an inventory transfer screen straight away, and it says based on inventory transfer request number 3, it says from warehouse to warehouse, and I press the add button, and it will now be sent from Business One into iVend. So once I've done this, it will now be available in my should be available in iVend for stock transfer receipt. If I go back here and I do stock transfer receipt, press new. I'm presuming it would have replicated by now. Press the 1. Okay. So these are the 2 items that I had requested for and I've received. Now, another little thing that we've added here is the quantity that I have received. Now, there's a possibility that I could have received more or less than what I had asked for. So let's say I asked for 15 and I got only 20, or only 10 of them. Okay, and I know I won't be getting any more, so I can say 10 and I press the finalize button. So it'll close the document to the effect that it'll not be available for further receipts. I could have received more. So let's say I received, let's say for example, 20 of these pieces. Okay, I did not press the finalize button, but if I want to, I can. And if you can see, the these get, these lines get highlighted in a different color because it is different from what we had asked for. Okay, so I press OK, and again a very elementary document is created, and I'm done. So it's a very simple, from a process standpoint, it's a very simple process that somebody requested, it went to Business One. The Business One, it was the same, the base product SAP Business One transaction screens, which is inventory transfer request and inventory transfer. These 2 screens of the base product were used, and it was brought in back again into iVend. So coming back to the agenda, what I just showed you, the first part of the cycle where I covered these 2 items, for integration of stock transfer requisition with B1, and we use the base B1 transaction screen to do the transaction. Now what I'll do is I'll do the second cycle where automatic receiving of stock transfer shipment from iVend into SAP Business One. So I go back to iVend, and this time I do a stock transfer shipment. There is a question here. Give me a second. Let me see if this has been answered for. Yes, there was a question around, are the reason codes integrated in Business One? Yes, they are integrated into SAP Business One. So stock transfer shipment, is what I'm going to create. Press the new button, collapse this for now. I have locations implemented in my retail store, hence the reason it's by picking up the default location in the retail store. So the to warehouse, again, I'll pick up for simplicity the general warehouse, and I can give the comments. So I can just say, okay, this is stocks returned, and I add the product. Let's say in this case I pick this and this. I'm returning 10 of them. Okay, so once I do that here, okay, yes, again the elementary screen, the document, I close this as well, go back to Business One, and I should see it in my inventory transfers screen. So I lost one. These are the two that I had just returned, which is automatically received against the stock transfer number 13. So that's the simple part where I am automatically receiving into SAP Business One. Similarly, I can always create an inventory transfer originating here. Okay, so let's say this is for the store. From warehouse, select the to warehouse. Let's say this is the avenues, and select the items here. Let's say this one for sake of simplicity. Okay, and I say mention it for store, and I can finish the transaction. It'll now be available the moment I finish this. It'll now be available in iVend detail for any kind of for stock receipts. So that's a simple part. Nothing on the face of it. The simplicity of what we have done is so good that nothing looks too great. But then there was certainly an effort involved in doing away with that part of that additional screen which used to come somewhere here, requisition document or something. So that we've done away with. So now using base product screens, which is a good movement forward. So on that note, I would take a pause here before we move on to the next one and open the forum for any questions that you may have. As I said, you can always raise the hand icon on your GoToWebinar, use the chat window or the questions panel. So if you do not have any questions for now, what I'll do is I'll keep moving. As I said, Yash is here along with me, and he would be able to answer questions. So you can always, as I speak, you can always ask questions in the questions panel or in the chat, or maybe raise a hand. So that brings me to the, yes, I have, yes, Luca. What I'll do is I'll unmute your line so that you can ask the question. Go ahead, Luca.
Well, I didn't want. I wanted to chat and type, but anyway, I was thinking about serial number management on transfer. If you can show an item managed by serial number, how you're going to make the transfer?
Yeah, I mean,
it's the same. It's the same thing, right?
It's the same thing. It's the same thing. It's just that if it's a serial control item, you will have to select the serial numbers. The selection of serial numbers could, again, is based on the way you want to use SAP Business One. So that's how the serial number transactions work. It won't be any different. I'm using a very simple item again from a simplicity standpoint, and don't want to increase the number of clicks in a webinar. But the transaction cycle still remains the same. You'll have to select an item and you will have to select the corresponding or the appropriate serial numbers thereof. And when you receive, again, you have to select those serial numbers. It's just that it increases the the time, especially on a webinar, but the process pretty much remains the same. So with that, let's move on to the second part and the interesting part of the entire. Yeah, Yash points out that there is one thing left, which is vendor catalog management, and there is one more question here, I guess. No, this is Lucas saying thank you. So there's one little thing that is left, which is the vendor catalog management. So what we'll do is, if I go to SAP Business One, and if I go to my business partners, sorry, I have to go to inventory, item management, and business partner catalog numbers. And I select the particular vendor who has given me the catalog. So I scroll all the way down to the vendors. Yeah, that's the one that I have. So what I've done is, for the purpose of this demo, I already created, sorry, for this vendor, I've already created a couple of catalogs, and you could select one more item. So you select the catalog, and when you see this, when you refer to this vendor in iVend detail, you'll have this catalog mentioned there. So if I go back to, let's say, iVend, and let's say just search for a vendor catalog. Okay, I say search, I select the vendor, and I say view. Sorry, that was the vendor. Double click. It will show me all the items which have a specific catalog code and a description attached for that particular vendor. So a small little thing. It could be utilized in situations where the vendor very categorically specifies that his catalog be referred to whenever we are doing any transaction with that particular vendor. So, so this was as far as the catalog bit is concerned. Coming back to SAP Business One, the UDF UDT integration, and that's where I would need help of Yash. So the creation of UDF is obviously hasn't changed the way it is done in SAP Business One. So I go to Tools, Customization Tools, User-Defined Fields Management. Okay, let's say pick up master data, items, and what I've done, I've already created a UDF called channel. Okay, so what happens, I can always create as many UDFs as I want to create. So I create this UDF channels. I've created this here, and whenever I'm doing a transaction, or whenever I'm referring that particular product, so this channel gets replicated. This UDF gets replicated into iVend detail. So let me just straight away go and show you the product in iVend detail. So I go to inventory, product, search, and I pick up anyone at random. So the UDF gets integrated right at the bottom here. So we have two of them, for example, country of origin and a sales channel. So you can update in iVend, you can update in Business One, it will come in iVend. That's how it is designed to work. So if I were to go inventory, master data, pick up, let's say item number 7, and go right here to the right and say retail. So this is my retail. This is the channel for this particular product is retail, and till the time it takes to replicate is the time it will take, but it will automatically be available under that particular product. So if I go search, I think this was the one, if I'm not wrong. Yes, there you are, and it says retail. So that's the easy part of the UDF integration. We had we already had a UDF integration at the uh, for item master data and business partners. Okay, and I will also try and show you how I have extended for a particular optical demo, how I extended this functionality of creating UDFs in Business One and in iVend to capture additional data at the transaction level, and then getting it back into Business One for further analysis. We'll come to that as we move along, but this was a simple integration where we created a UDF in Business One, and it was available in iVend. Now, UDFs are also available in at the transaction level. So what we've done is, till recently it was only on item master and the business partner master data. We have now extended that to include the UDFs for the transactions as well. So I'll have to create a UDF, isn't it? I create a UDF. So let's say I created this, close this, so, and I go to tools, tools, customization tools, user defined field management, and I could pick up a marketing document title, and I created one. So I created a UDF by the word name, and what I did was I attached this UDF. Having created this, I go to administration, then I go to system initialization, iVend retail, and I say marketing documents UDF integration. So I had picked up a stock transfer document, and I created a UDF by the name of who did it, and I'm attaching it to the stock transfer transaction. So what really is happening is, these are the list of transactions on which I can actually create UDFs and get them into iVend retail. So in case you're doing any transactions in Business One and you want those transactions, that UDF on the transaction to be available in iVend, the way you would do that, you create a UDF first, then you come to this place. Let me again show this to you. Administration, system initialization, iVend retail, marketing document UDF integration. So these are the different marketing documents available, and the UDF that has to be integrated would be shown here. So let's say this time I want to do it on, let's say, a good receipt, or maybe a stock transfer. Which one would you prefer?
Good receipt.
A good receipt. So let's say good receipt. I select this one, okay, and I press add. So this gets integrated at the good receipt level. So once it gets integrated, every time I do a good receipt here, from iVend, the corresponding good receipt
will be created in SAP with that UDF value.
Okay, let's attempt that. So let's go back to iVend and business transactions, and do good receipt, create a new. As you can see, it does bring that UDF here, says who did it. Okay, and I obviously can keep on doing my transaction. Let's say niche, product, search. Just pick two of them, it's easy. Let's say 10 each. It's okay. That's the transaction, and it would be available. So it would now be available if you go back to Business One.
To inventory.
Sorry. Inventory transactions, good receipt, the last one. And if I say view, we will find fields. There you go. It does show me that. So the idea is to demonstrate the fact that not only on master data but also on transactions, I would be able to attach UDFs and bring them from iVend into Business One and Business One to iVend. So that's one part. Pretty much on the same lines. Is when I talk about the user-defined tables. So I can create a table. Let me call it a UDT. Sorry, UDT underscore 2. My second UDT. If you're curious as to why is there as a first and a second, this session that I'm doing now is the repeat of the session that I did in the morning. So the morning session I created UDT 1 for my first UDT. This is my second UDT, and I press update. No, yes. So my UDT gets created here. Now, any data that I enter into this UDT here in SAP Business One, it would be available as a table in my iVend Retail database in iVend Retail. So if I were to see the table, I would be able to see it there. But before I do that, I go to Administration, System Initialization, iVend Retail, User-Defined Table Integration, and this is the one that I just created. I click Yes, Integrate Yes, and I press Add button. So I have my second UDT also available here. And if I were to see it in SQL Server, as I said, I do not have a corresponding, should I say, a user interface for this particular table. And the objective here is not to create that user interface there. The idea is to have these UDFs and the UDTs integrate from B1 to iVend is that stepping stone for iVend extensibility. So if you want to have some data which is that you want to capture additionally in iVend Retail and you want to have it available in SAP in iVend, so sorry. If you want to have some additional data captured in SAP Business One, which you want to be available in iVend Retail for further analysis, for further reporting, etc., you would be able to do that by using this functionality. So if I were to just very hurriedly show you the SQL Server as to how does it look like, that particular table. So if I were to do just a simple select statement, select star from U underscore UDT 2, so that's the table that I was talking about. Obviously it doesn't have any data in it, but that's how you would get the data, get the table from Business One all the way into iVend Retail. The UDO part is equally interesting, where I would, and before I go further, I think I just want to take a small pause here and open the forum for any questions, if there are any, so that I'm able to, gauge the interest levels and see if there are any questions that need to be answered. So you can use the chat window, you can use the questions option, or you can always raise a hand and I can unmute the line. So I have a question here. So Tony wants to know, is UDF integration for AR documents planned, AR invoices, sales order, credit memo, etc.? Yes.
So Tenny, basically we are for integrating the UDF on the AR documents, we are already using the sales attribute functionality or the line attribute functionality. So we can achieve the same functionality by using the attributes at the cell level and the line level.
And that's something I will show that. That's very interesting. This Tenny, I'll explain that to you. Give me a moment. The second question is from Rogelio, who says, going back to the vendor catalog, is the vendor catalog ID searchable at the point of sale? At the point of sale, should be. We'll have to check it. I will have to really check and get back to you. But in all likelihood, if I'm taking it all the way into iVend, the chances are I would be able to search it in. I would be able to search it at the point of sale. Now, coming back to Tenny's question, let me try and explain as to what did I do to have this integration achieved. So we were trying to, before the extensibility happened, we were trying to create an add-on, or rather a vertical solution around optical retail. So what we did was we had to capture the RX information at the line item level at the point of sale. So the customer walks in and he selects a particular frame, selects the kind of glasses that he wants to use, and then so there was some RX information in terms of spherical, cylindrical, left eye, right eye, axis, the PD values, etc. So all these were created as, let me go back to iVend and try and show that to you. All these were created as attributes at the line item level. Transaction line item attribute. So what I did was I created these 12, 15 odd values, right spherical, right cylindrical, right axis, left, and so on and so forth. I created these attributes, made them active, okay, and so at the point of sale, what I would do is whenever I'm doing a transaction, so let's say go to let me launch my point of sale. And while it is launching, so what I would do is make them mandatory and capture these values at the line item level. And then what we did was we obviously created back-to-back UDFs in SAP Business One and linked the two together. Give me a second. Let me just launch my point of sale. Let me go back here first. So what I did for every UDF, every attribute at the line item level, we created a back-to-back UDF in SAP Business One and said these are integrated. So that was the first part of the entire exercise. The second part of the exercise was to capture these attributes at the line item level. So let's pick up a particular product. So that's this one. So I select this particular item and then I go to item edit. Let's say collect the attributes and I correct the different attributes here. So let's say this is the cylindrical is 1. I'm just at randomly capturing some values here. Okay, press OK, because these are not mandatory. So, sorry, before I go there, I want to show you one more thing. I first select the customer. Let's say Manish, and Manish walks in and wants to buy a particular prescription glasses and prescription frame, selling it from the default location and collecting the different attribute values. Let's say select these particular values. When I complete the transaction here, that's a quick cash complete. Though the transaction type should be a sales order than just a normal sale, but the idea is to show you what we really landed up doing. So once I do this transaction, this information would be available to me at the sales order level. In this case, it will be at the AR invoice level. Okay, so this is the product that I sold, and I capture these information, the UDFs at the line item. So right spherical, left spherical, and so on and so forth. Okay, and not only this, I go to the customer card, and on the remarks, I capture the spherical, the prescription details at the customer card level, again to maintain that prescription history. So to get this thing done, we obviously wrote a few lines of code in SP transaction notification. But the point I'm trying to make it any is that you can use line item attributes at the point of sale in iVend Retail, connect them back to a UDF in SAP Business One, write that small little code that has to be written, which picks up the values, puts it at the line item at the transaction level, be it an AR invoice, or more importantly, it will be the sales order, and then also maintain the prescription history at the customer card level. So that's one way to utilize the UDF integration from iVend into Business One. But that had a limitation. What we've done now is that extended the functionality of the line item attribute at the point of sale to transactions in the management console, and those UDFs can also be integrated. So I hope that answers your question in terms of how do we integrate to the UDF. So let's move on, and the last part where we talk about the UDO integration. So when we talk about UDO, essentially what we're talking about is first creating a few tables. In this case, I've created a header and a detail table. Okay, first creating two tables. It could be a master data type, or it could be a document type. So in this case, we created a very simple one, which is a header table which has one value and a detail which has another value. We can always create a new object. Let's call it detail 2. And we call it as the document rows. Just keep telling me if I'm doing right or wrong.
Yeah, we have to get another header table also.
Yes, so I press update.
Yes.
Ignore. Yes, and I say header 2, which is my I call this as document type, update, ignore, yes. So now once I've done this, I'll have to create so this was obviously I just created a table, but as I understand, I'm also supposed to create a few UDFs here. So let's say go back to customization tools, user defined fields management, and this user tables. So this is my header table.
Yes.
I press add.
Yes.
Let's say I pick up a code 10-digit. I don't want to get into the details in that. I can have valid values here. I can set a default field, make it mandatory, and link it to a table. I just keep going. And okay, so I go to the detail table, let's say add, and here I give, let's say, over the years I've realized that if you're trying to do a transaction as well as trying to give a webinar or speak, it becomes that much more difficult for the audience. But I keep going. Okay, so I'm done here. And now once I'm done here, I go back to tools, customization tools, and say object registration wizard. Okay, and say next. I want to create and add a new object, a unique ID. Give the name as let's say sorry about that. It's a document type. This is my table. Unique ID, let's say 2598. Okay, go to next. I would like to find feature here, and let's say this for now. Next, default from menu item. Menu caption is B1 UDO. That's a parent. Let's pick up again administration. Place at the bottom. Next. And this was more importantly this. Last one is the most important one. Go to next. And here I select the last one. Next. Detail. Next. Pick up the description. Next. Finito. Oops. Obviously that's the Murphy's law. Invalid.
Okay. Go back.
Go back. Back.
First. Or we can cancel it and reopen it.
Okay, cancel it, reopen. But anyways, the idea is to give an understanding that having done that process, we would then go to system initialization, iVend retail, UDO integration. Okay, so there's one I created in the morning, and it says documents, so it's already integrated. But the one which is not will start displaying here. You click the integrate button, it'll appear here, and it'll also appear in the menu that you had selected. So this one is what I had created in the morning. It says the customer name and the item description, for example. And this UDO is then available in iVend retail. Now, from a use case standpoint, there are multiple situations where you could use that. One of them that comes to my mind right away is let's say I want to have some kind of a quality check done when I'm receiving goods in my distribution center at the using SAP Business One. So I could create a custom UDO or a bunch of UDOs where I could capture that information and make it available into iVend retail. The other way could be I could define certain seasons. Okay, so let's say I have a fall winter season, or I have a spring summer season. I can define different seasons and add the products which are available for that particular season from SAP Business One and make them available in iVend retail for further usage in terms of promotion or any kind of discounting or running a loyalty program, for example. So multiple different ways in which I can get information from here in SAP Business One into iVend Detail. So that's from a UDO standpoint, and you'll excuse me for my inability to create at runtime. I didn't want to get into a diagnostic session there, but SAP Business One does give you a very interesting feature of creating UDOs, and we just extend it further by getting the UDOs into iVend Detail. So with that said, I would again open, that brings me to the end of the webinar today, but I would, before we actually sign off, I'd like to open the forum for any questions that you may have, and I'll be more than willing to answer them. So yes, this session is available, obviously, yes, is available on the knowledge, the recording is available on the knowledge portal. You can always refer it there, and you can certainly get in touch with us on the forums. You can write an email to me directly. There are multiple ways of getting in touch with us for any further clarification or queries that you have. That certainly is possible. So if you do not have any questions for now, I will kind of close the session, and I look forward to interacting with you again in my subsequent webinars. All my previous webinars are available on the knowledge portal, the place where you register. On the left hand side there's an archive section. You can always refer to my previous webinars. These are posted on YouTube in the City Access America's YouTube channel, so all webinars are available there as well. So whichever is convenient for you to refer, please go ahead. And with that said, I'll take your leave, and thank you so much for joining. Very overwhelming session, and I look forward to interacting with you once again. Thank you very much, and have a great day ahead.